The brutal murders of these 4 young men took place exactly 5 years ago to the day. The victims were members of a rival gang or had disrespected MS-13 on social media.
Leniz, Little Devil, Escobar. The chilling murders of 5 young men between the ages of 16 and 20 for something as simple as an Instagram post is still an incident that haunts Long Island, New York, to this very day. Long Island, New York has been frequently plagued by gang-related violent outbursts for a long time. In April of 2017, 4 young men were brutally hacked to death with machetes in what has been revealed to be a gang-style execution. As gruesome as the murders were, the events that led up to the deaths of those 4 young men are even more bone-chilling. At the center of the media frenzy surrounding the horrific killing of those young boys was one named Leniz Diablita Escobar. Elmer Alexander Arteaga Ruiz, 22, the only survivor of the horrific slaughter of his friends, who was able to run away from the scene just in time to save his life. It was Elmer who filled in the gaps in the story of what had happened that night in 2017. Leniz Diablita Escobar was a 17-year-old high school student whose boyfriend was a top-ranking member of the popular Long Island gang MS-13. Leniz did not have it easy growing up, and by the time she played her part in the massacre of the 4 young men killed by MS-13, both of her parents were not in the picture. Her aunt, Cindy Escobar, had this to say when she was asked why Leniz may have acted the way she did. She was a young girl who had a difficult life, not having a father, not having a mother, abused physically, mentally. She was a very smart girl who had a bright future. Unfortunately, Leniz would never realize her full potential. MS-13 is a transnational criminal organization. The major leaders of MS-13 are usually members located in Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, and El Salvador. However, thousands of members of MS-13 are located across the United States. The gang is known for having multiple branches or cliques. The MS-13 is the most violent criminal organization on Long Island. Since 2003, hundreds of MS-13 members, including dozens of clique leaders, have been convicted on federal felony charges in the Eastern District of New York. Federal prosecutors believe that the gang is responsible for at least 60 murders committed in Long Island and neighboring communities. Justin Yivicura, Michael Lopez, Jorge Tigre, and Jefferson Villalobos were all young men within the ages of 15 to 20. These young men being natives of Long Island and apparently disrespected MS-13. Their only crime was posting pictures on social media where they had all pretended to be members of the popular gang. Leniz, who was very involved in the activities of the gang, had seen their post and decided to report them to actual MS-13 members. Authorities believe that Leniz was trying to curry favor with members of the gang and decided to use these gangster wannabes to achieve her goal. After seeing the photos of the 4 men flashing gang signs on Instagram, MS-13 decided to attack them. The gang decided that Escobar and her friend Kaylee Gomez would be used as bait to get the young men to the chosen location. Kaylee Gomez, who later on decided to cooperate with the police, testified in court that she and Leniz Escobar drove the young men to the park where they had told them they were going to meet up and smoke marijuana. As soon as they had arrived at the predetermined area, Escobar alerted the gang members by texting her boyfriend. In less than a minute, they were surrounded by members of MS-13, armed with machetes and clubs.
Gang members with machetes. One ran off. The other 4 were killed. Prosecutors say the victims were targeted for disrespecting MS-13. Escobar is pleading not guilty to these charges.
In his testimony, Alexander, the only survivor of the killings, had this to say in court. They came through a hole in the fence. There were 8 or 9. They covered their faces with sweaters. They came forward and formed a semicircle. They told us to get down on our knees. They said, "Don't move. Whoever moves dies." I ran because the first words they said was that we were going to die. They were going to kill us, and they had weapons. I took off running, and there were 2 people who started to follow me, he said. Thank God I managed to escape. When he was asked about the pictures posted on social media showing him and his friends flashing gang signs, Alexander admitted that they had only done that as an attempt to impress women. He went on to say that his younger friends were just a bunch of high school kids trying to look tough. The prosecutors in the case described the killings as a horrific frenzy of violence. But it wasn't just Escobar's part in luring the boys to the location that shocked the jury. It was the events that happened after the killings. Investigators discovered that Escobar had bragged about her part in the killings to other people. An intercepted phone call that was lightly coded between her and her boyfriend revealed the following conversation.
Baby.
Hola, mi amor.
Te tengo que contar algo, baby.
What happened now?
Yo sé que tú te vas a enojar mucho y me vas a decir que qué putas hice.
What happened now?
Pero baby, la cagué, baby. ¿Me entendés? Agarraron el tren anoche, ¿me entendés? Y se fueron, ¿va? Uno de ellos no, ¿me entendés? El tren lo dejó, ¿me entendés? Y ese, ¿me entendés? Está de ondas, ¿me entendés?
¿De qué me estás hablando?
Por eso que anoche, ¿me entendés? Que vos me dijiste que no saliera de la casa, pues sí, salí. Y, ¿me entendés? Pasó esa onda y now I'm in trouble, I guess.
¿Qué hiciste?
Solo eso te digo, like, I'm in trouble now.
4 individuals took the train, and who knows when they'll be back. Got me? Escobar then shared how that plan went very wrong when one person escaped, adding, "But one of them managed to still be here on the map, and he knows stuff about me." In a separate call, Escobar told her boyfriend that she was happy for this to happen. Of the 4 victims, she said they were never coming back. Somewhere else. Seeing the light. No more. Out of here. Not on the map. The investigation carried out by police revealed that Leniz Escobar had destroyed the evidence of that night, including a sweatshirt that was stained with the blood of one of the victims. In addition, she tossed her cell phone out of the vehicle she was in while being chased by the police, destroying the phone completely. When Leniz Escobar was eventually apprehended, she falsely alleged that Gomez and herself were the victims of an armed robbery attack. As part of her defense, Leniz Escobar attempted to distance herself from the MS-13 gang by claiming at first that she was a victim and then later on by admitting that although she knew it was a trap, she did not know that they would be killed. This defense claim was the far opposite of the testimony Alexander had given as a witness to the killings. According to the reports, Diablita, Little Devil, had licked the blood of the victims that got on her face as she watched the 4 young men get brutally murdered. Not only did Leniz Escobar aid the members of MS-13 by luring the young men into a trap, but the testimony of her accomplice, Kaylee Gomez, also actually showed that she instigated the entire incident. Judge Joseph Bianco, who presided over some parts of Escobar's trial, had this to say. "The seriousness of the alleged offenses cannot be overstated," Bianco wrote. "The defendant is charged with 4 premeditated and brutal murders carried out for the MS-13. The government alleges that she instigated the murders by showing pictures of some of the victims flashing MS-13 signs to MS-13 members, knowing that their punishment would be violent deaths. It is important to mention that one of the theories that the prosecutors alleged in the trial of Diablita, that MS-13, the gang she was associated with, had been looking to settle a score with members of a rival gang named 18th Street Gang. Although the victims' families have denied that they were in any way affiliated with any gang, there is a real possibility that the killings were in actual fact reprisal attacks. Authorities also mentioned that for a hit like that to have been carried out, Leniz and her MS-13 counterparts must have gotten the go-ahead from some higher-ups in the gang hierarchy. 5 years after the incident happened, Leniz Escobar stood before a jury to receive her sentencing.
By gang members with machetes. One ran off, the other 4 were killed. Prosecutors say the victims were targeted for disrespecting MS-13. Escobar is pleading not guilty to these charges.
It only took the jury 16 minutes to find Leniz Escobar guilty on all counts. It appears that Diablita may be facing life in prison at her sentencing as punishment for her acts. At the trial, her defense attorney, Jesse Siegel, had this to say about her chances at sentencing. She faces a potential life sentence. As a matter of fact, if she had not been a juvenile at the time of the offense, she could have faced the death penalty, Siegel said. Leniz Escobar was charged alongside more than a dozen other high school students, all of whom were also involved in the murders. The large number of young kids who were involved in this murder put a spotlight on the gang violence that is a common occurrence in Long Island, New York. While it still remains unclear whether the 4 young men that were lured to their deaths by Leniz Escobar had any gang affiliations, or if they were innocent kids as claimed by their families, one thing is for sure: Long Island would never completely be free from the violence that erupted in the park in April 2017.